to the Bowden Blitz ACC edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, week number 14 on the horizon, the final stretch run before the ACC championship game. But we'll take a look back at week number 13. Two games in particular, Miami against Wake Forest and SMU against Virginia. Will start in South Beach, where the Hurricanes started fast and dominated that ball game from start to finish. They win as a 24.5-point home favorite over Wake Forest last Saturday.
Yeah, Miami did what they usually do. They just came on, won at the end. They kept the game close. Defensively, they let the team defense stay close to them, and they pulled away the fourth quarter.
The biggest thing for me is that, we've seen in games throughout the regular season where Miami's offense started fast and then the defense would allow their opponents back in terms of that matchup. It didn't happen on Saturday. They had the killer instinct, did in fact get a pick six that really changed the momentum early in the first half. Second half, Wake Forest and Hank Bachmeier were one-dimensional behind the sticks on each and every third down. That's a testament to what Miami brought on the defensive side of the ball last weekend.
Yeah, but Joe, they let them stay close. They let them stay close to the fourth quarter. It's the only thing that bothers me about Miami as they get to the playoffs, as they get beyond their conference schedule. They tend to let people stay close on defense, just like they let Wake Forest stay close. Now, they're good enough to beat anybody. They are that talented on offense, but they continue to let other teams control them on defense, and I think that concerns me.
Yeah, when you look at the front seven for Miami, they held Wake Forest to 90 yards rushing on the ground, 2.4 yards per carry. If they have that type of effort against Syracuse this coming weekend, they have an opportunity to not just win that game, but to potentially win an ACC championship. Let's take a look at SMU, because they started fast on the road. They were a 9.5, 10-point favorite against Virginia. This is a Virginia team that has played well, especially at home this year, fighting for bowl contention. Kevin Jennings and that offense got going. They built a double-digit first-half lead and never looked back. They dominate this matchup, Coach, 33-7. What did you see out of SMU this past weekend that allows you to believe they could be a college football playoff contender?
Oh, they exploded. They're offensively, they are a dominant football team. They went out there and did what they have to do. They went out there and they controlled the football game. I really see SMU as a team that's going to play very, very well into the conference championship. They just have so much on offense. Kevin Jennings does a great job. And they just, to me, they're playing better as they get further in the season.
Kevin Jennings completed 25 of 33 passes, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. They only rushed, Coach, for about 3.2 yards per carry. Offensive line in terms of the rushing attack, a little inconsistent last week, but they brought it again on the defensive side of the ball. Virginia couldn't run the football consistently, and that offense was put into predictable third downs. And this defense over the course of the regular season for SMU has been very opportunistic. They're already in the ACC title game. How do they match up with the likes of Miami? And more importantly, if they were to have a matchup against the Clemson Tigers, do you feel like SMU can win an ACC championship?
I would not have thought it before the season began, but I think SMU really, they're the most balanced football team. And whether I look at them against Miami or even Clemson, I see this team playing good offense, good defense, overall a very good performance. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't win the ACC outright and take themselves into the college football playoffs.
Coach, right now SMU is guaranteed of that berth no matter what the outcome happens this coming weekend in terms of their matchup with Cal. We'll break down that game a little bit later in the show. But I do want to bring up the question in terms of if it was Miami and SMU, no matter who loses that game, do you feel that the resume is still good for both of those teams, that if they don't win the ACC championship, they could still be one of the top 12 teams in the country come college football playoff picking time?
That's a big question. A 2-loss team like this, Miami and SMU, and they have played so well, and there are so many teams that lost their third game. Who can you tell? Everybody's losing football games. The best teams we thought are now teams that have 3 losses. I think a team with 2 losses have a good chance of getting in.
Yeah, I do as well. I said, and I was asked this question this past week as well, which team would have the inside track? I did bring up SMU because their only regular season loss up until this point did come at that particular time to an undefeated BYU team. They lost that matchup as a 12.5-point home favorite, 18-15. We've seen BYU now tail off in back-to-back weeks, but if you just look at the body of work, not only did they beat teams, but they beat them by margin, where when you look at Miami throughout the course of the regular season playing down to the level of competition, they allowed Virginia Tech to be within striking distance. They allowed, obviously, Cal. We saw the game play out against Duke. They allowed Georgia Tech to win that matchup in the fourth quarter. So I just think if it is between Miami and SMU respectively, SMU has done enough in the regular season that would warrant them being in terms of the top 12 teams. For Miami, I think they, right now, depending upon how this game plays out against Syracuse, they have to win an ACC championship. I don't think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt because they haven't been blowing out teams throughout the regular season.
Yeah, well, we've been enamored over Cam Ward. He is that sensational of a quarterback. But you look at the total body of work. You look at them on defense, look at their overall team. You say, you know what? They are not playing like a championship team. SMU, has found a way to win every time. They play good offense. They play good defense. And as we go through this, as we get down to the championship match, you see SMU just seems like a team that you would want to put in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about Cam Ward as well, completed 67% of his passes this year, over 3,500 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Miami's averaging 44 points per game, 22 points allowed on the defensive side of the ball. I think when you just look at the most explosive players, right? You talk about Travis Hunter, you talk about Genty from Boise State. If Cam Ward wasn't on the Miami Hurricanes this year, they most likely have more than just 1 or 2 losses, right? Cam Ward has been that much of a difference maker in terms of the roster for the Miami Hurricanes this year.
Well, and I've been for Miami all the way. I've watched him play. I've seen how dynamic he is, how his ability to pull out football games, and he has that ability to make them better than the opponent by himself. And so we'll see how it plays out. But I really worry about their defense. If we talk about playing into the conference, the college football playoff, I see their defense as being their real weakness.
I do as well, and we'll see how it plays out against Syracuse. Syracuse red hot right now with their quarterback, Kyle McCord, 8-3 overall. They're 10.5-point home underdogs this coming weekend. We'll break down that game a little bit later in the show. Coach, I do want to touch on Notre Dame. I know they're not members of the ACC, but they're as hot as anybody in terms of college football. They've won 9 straight games since they lost at home to Northern Illinois. They've pounded teams in regards to just margin of victory, winning those 9 games by an average margin of 35.2 points per game. They're doing it in terms of offense and defensive line play. They do play an ACC schedule. Give me your thoughts about Notre Dame big picture. Do they need to win this matchup against USC this weekend to make the college football playoff, or do you feel they've done enough right now with only 1 loss on their resume?
It's funny. I think this Notre Dame team is something everybody's forgetting about. Everybody's not paying attention to how good this team is. They had one crazy game. I think they can make it, even if they don't win this game. I think they can make the playoffs. But this is a team you've got to watch closely because had a great season. They've won a lot of good ball games. They've had one blip in their schedule, but they are a very, very good football team. I can see them with a chance to win it all.
Yeah, when Coach and I come back, we'll dive into ACC action week number 14. Keep it where it is.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back on the Bowden Blitz ACC edition, we're going to dive into week number 14 within the conference. We left off talking about Cam Ward and the Miami Hurricanes. They now open as a 10.5-point road favorite over Fran Brown and the Syracuse Orange. When you look at this matchup, Coach, Miami, from an offensive perspective, should go toe-to-toe with Kyle McCord. But Syracuse, as I mentioned before, playing a little bit with house money. Fran Brown has overexceeded expectations in year number 1, and crazy things happen in the Dome in Syracuse, so they could be on upset watch this coming weekend.
Yeah, I think you got to watch this game closely because Miami finds a way to make games close. Their defense does not play consistently. They let people stay in the ball game, and Syracuse has just the offense to keep this thing very, very interesting as they play on. So I still have Miami to win this game, but boy, does this game scare you because Miami has not played like a national championship contender.
Yeah, they haven't. And you mentioned the defense for Miami, how they allow teams back into matchups. Kyle McCord might have some success. When you look at Syracuse overall, they're averaging 31 points per game. McCord completing 65% of his passes, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Go back to a couple of weeks ago where they trailed Virginia Tech 21-3. They bounced back in a big way in the second half. Won that matchup 38-31. They could put up 30 points on almost each and every defense within the conference. Only game that I didn't see Kyle McCord potentially step up was where he threw 5 interceptions on the road against Pittsburgh. That was the outlier. So when you look at Miami, they're going to have to bring their A game because Fran Brown in year number 1 could play with house money, but he could roll the dice. He could afford to be a little bit more aggressive in this matchup where Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes need to win this game just to make the college football playoff.
And that's why I think they will do that. They have not played their best. They've got to put their best on the field defensively as well as offensively. I think when it comes down to it, when it gets to the fourth quarter, you'll see Cam Ward come through, make the plays he needs to make. But Miami, it's just a funny team that you have a hard time pulling and believing they're going to do their best. But they'll win this game, I believe, in the fourth quarter with their offense.
Do you think this game will be high scoring, 67.5? We have 2 competent quarterbacks in Cam Ward and Kyle McCord. You look at Syracuse right now, can run the football consistently, only averaging 92 rushing yards per game. In order to pull out this victory, going to need a little bit better effort out of that offensive line and certainly the rushing attack. I would think that a lower scoring game would, in fact, maybe, benefit Syracuse playing at home. But how do you see the total playing out this coming weekend?
No, I see the over being a greater possibility because Miami's going to score points. They know what this game means, what they've got to get. And I think Syracuse could come back and score with them. So I really think this game's going to be a little bit of a scoring match. And I see it going to the over when it comes to Miami beating Syracuse and beating them with more points on the board.
You're talking about two top offenses in terms of third down conversions as well. Miami converting well over 50% of their opportunities. Syracuse right there at 48%. The team that wins the turnover battle and most likely converts on third down will win this matchup. Early on, Coach, I do like the 10.5 with Syracuse. I lean to the under, but we'll see how it plays out. Let's turn our attention to Death Valley. Clemson has only lost 5 games since 2015, straight up at home. We saw them lose earlier in the year coming out of a bye to Louisville. They're 9-2 overall. They are playing one of the better teams in the SEC in South Carolina. It's a rivalry game, but South Carolina is sitting at 8-3, still has an outside chance to make the college football playoff. Clemson opens as a 2.5-point home favorite. Total is set at 49.5. South Carolina went into Death Valley a couple of years ago and pulled out the victory with Spencer Rattler, 31-30. How do you see this game playing out?
Well, I tell you, I really like South Carolina, the way they're playing, kind of the sleeper of the Southeastern Conference. I like the way they play. They're one of those teams that it's kind of like Arkansas. They found a way to play very well. I don't think Clemson's going to win this game. I think South Carolina is going to win this football game. They are just playing so well. They're in a very, very difficult conference. And they've taken some tough losses, but I see them pulling this one off.
Yeah, you look at South Carolina right now, averaging 32 points per game, only giving up 18 points against opposing offenses. Very solid in terms of run support, allowing 103 rushing yards per game, well under 3.5 yards per carry, and they've been opportunistic. Secondary as well, Coach, only giving up around 188 passing yards to opposing offenses. We saw Brady Cook and Missouri stretch them over the top. Cade Klubnik and Clemson need to stretch them in order to run the football in terms of this matchup.
No, they've got to have some big plays. I think Clemson has to have a big takeoff, a deep ball, have some big plays in this game because really South Carolina, really, the way they're playing defense, I just see them overpowering Clemson.
Yeah, you talk about 39 total sacks right now for South Carolina as well, a very dominant defensive front. Biggest thing as well is that South Carolina very physical in terms of the rushing attack. When you look at them and their ability to run the football with their quarterback, Lenora Sellers, if they could stay in manageable third downs and then work off a play action, they have the opportunity to really put up points against Clemson. We saw that play out in the second half against Pittsburgh, Nate Yarnell, and Pittsburgh was able to move the football as well on that secondary. Coach, I want to get your take on South Carolina because if they only had 2 losses and were able to pull out 2 close games against LSU where they lost it close at home in Williams-Brice by 5 earlier in the year, or on the road in Tuscaloosa in the middle part of the year where they lost it by 2, if they were able to pull out one of those 2 games, I think there would be no doubt we'd be talking about South Carolina making the college football playoff.
I think you're exactly right. That's what I'm saying. They're that good. They have played that well. They've lost a couple of close ball games, but they're one of those teams that I sit there and say, you know what? They are as good as anybody in the SEC. So the losses came, probably knocked them out of the playoffs. They're one of those teams that if they had just pulled off 1 or 2 wins, they would be in the playoff. They are that good.
And we'll see about Clemson. If they get this win, especially by double digits, they can be an at-large team if they don't make the ACC title game. We'll see how they do it. Early kick this coming weekend. I do lean to the Clemson Tigers. Do feel that playing at home is the advantage for Dabo Swinney and the crew. When Coach and I come back, we'll touch on the 2 games. Cal and SMU, Virginia Tech, coming up on the Bowden Blitz.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek. As I was
that's what your
looking down
grandma
and did
does,
not
right?
know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Continuing the conversation of week number 14 within the ACC, Coach and I will look at the matchup in Dallas. It's SMU opens as a 13.5-point home favorite over Cal. On the road, the Bears last week struggled early, but they did pick up the victory over Stanford. They trailed for much of the first half and pulled the ball game out by 3 points. They are now bowl eligible. Justin Wilcox potentially saved his job, Coach, with that victory over arch rival Stanford. When you look at SMU, already guaranteed a spot in terms of the ACC championship. But as a head coach, you still want to maintain your focus and give it your best effort last regular season game. Give me your thoughts about what SMU has to do to pull out this victory.
Yeah, they cannot take this game for granted. Cal has played great football. They've won games. They've been close to other games. And they're going to be a very, very tough opponent. I really think SMU has to be very, very careful, and they need to play their top game. If you have turnovers, if you turn the ball over, if you make mistakes like that, Cal's the kind of team that can beat you. I do think SMU is going to win, but this game has a great chance for being upset by Cal.
How much does Fernando Mendoza in the rushing attack? He is a mobile quarterback, doesn't utilize the RPO all that much, but he can tuck it and run, especially if you play man-to-man coverage. SMU hasn't faced that many mobile quarterbacks. The one game you could say that they did struggle from a defensive perspective was when they did play Malik Murphy and Duke. They won that matchup in overtime 28-27. What can Mendoza and Cal do from an offensive perspective to potentially put up points on that SMU defense?
I'm telling you that they have that much talent on offense. If they can get ahead early and can control the ball and keep themselves on the field and keep SMU's offense off the field, you're going to see a very, very dangerous game that Cal could win this football game. Now, I know SMU knows what's on the line. It's a critical game for them, and I do see them coming back. But Cal has the ability with that quarterback and that offense to keep the SMU offense off the field and win this football game.
Yeah, now Cal did win that ball game against Stanford at home. I said on the road, they were at home last week. They trailed it by 11 points late in the fourth quarter and pulled it out by 3 points. So I like Cal with the points plus 13.5. I do feel that a higher scoring game would favor SMU in the passing attack of Kevin Jennings, a lower scoring game where Cal can run the football and keep SMU's offense on the sidelines would be the recipe to potentially cover that number and get to the under. So we'll see how it plays out in Dallas this coming weekend. The final matchup that we'll take a look at is a rivalry game, but it is a game that has been owned for a majority of the past 19 matchups by the Virginia Tech Hokies. They have won 18 of the last 19 meetings, Coach, against their arch rival Virginia. They've won the last 3 by an average margin of victory of 20.3 points per game. Last Virginia win in the series came back with Bryce Perkins at home in Charlottesville back in 2019. Virginia Tech looking to become bowl eligible, sitting at 5-6 overall. They're laying 7.5 at home in Blacksburg. Can the Hokies win and cover this line?
Yeah, at home they'll play very well. I do think right now they're a better football team. UVA has had a very good season. They've won some big games, but they're not going to win this one. I think Virginia Tech at home, they'll take the victory and they'll get themselves to a bowl game.
Yeah, now you look at Virginia's schedule, it did line up for them to potentially become bowl eligible, and they had their shot against SMU and against Notre Dame, but 2 very top opponents. They struggled. When you play in a rivalry game, in a series that's been dominated by the opposition, what can you do from the head coaching perspective in terms of Elliott? What can he do to settle the troops down? He did have a mobile quarterback in terms of Bryce Perkins when they did win back in 2019. That was with Bronco Mendenhall. But what could they do in terms of Calandria and this offense to potentially get this game into the fourth quarter?
Well, you know what? At Virginia Tech, just get the kids ready to play. I think they've had a little better football team. They're a little better than Virginia. Play your game. Do not turn the ball over. Do not give them a deep ball. And you have a great chance to win this game because you're a better football team. And I think that's the biggest thing you've got to talk to your kids about is that, hey, this is a big rivalry. This is for a bowl. And if we play our best, we'll win this game.
Yeah, Virginia at 5-6, 3-2 on the road. Virginia Tech at 5-6. Very good at home this year. We'll see how it plays out. For Coach Bowden, I'm Joe Lisi. We'll see you next weekend on the Bowden Blitz. Happy holidays.